Really pumped about this week's podcast. Ben Alexander, former Rugby Union player, 154 games for the ACT, 72 tests for the good guys, the Wallabies. And, mate, you're here to talk about life. I'm really excited to have you on. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Nice to meet you, Greg. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, mate.
Yeah, let's rip in.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast, bringing you everything you need, want and should know about health, fitness, nutrition and training. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent or manage any injury, disease or other health-related condition.
This podcast was brought to you by the newest product to enter the Body Science Performance range, Myocytin. Independent research proved Body Science Myocytin to outperform standard creatine. In only 6 days, athletes ingesting Myocytin gained more than twice as much body mass as those consuming regular creatine. Athletes also increased upper arm girth by over 200% more than regular creatine users and improved their bench press performance significantly more than users of regular creatine. Ask your local supplement retailer how to get yours.
Welcome to Body Science HQ, the world of fit, happy, healthy. And I'm going to throw after that athletes that have a real purpose after sport. And with me is Ben. We came across through a mutual friend, Morgan Woodbury, has said that we should chat. So today we're going to have a chat, mate. And looking at your bio, I'm really thinking, shit, where do we start? Like, you are one very active person.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, busy in retirement. That's sort of all I can say. So not getting flogged on the footy field all week. So I've got a little bit more energy to, do a few other things. But and I've got a very supportive wife that lets me,
How good is a supportive wife? That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Oh, mate, 100%.
Mate, before we get into your footy and you know, you've got some great success stories post sport. Let's talk about you do a lot of blogging about mental health. I mean, why is that so important to you as an athlete? I've got quite a few mates who play for the Wallabies, and they talk about game day and Wallabies is massive. Like, it is the ultimate thing to run out on that field and you have the biggest highs, and then all of a sudden that's gone. It's peeled away from your life. How do you help future athletes or even just everyday people get around the highs and lows of what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, for me, suicide's killed the most people I know, more so than cancer, or it robbed my daughters of meeting all 8 of their great-grandparents. So they were lucky to meet 7 of their 8 great-grandparents, and it was suicide that killed my mother-in-law's father. It's killed my grandmother's brother. I've lost a staff member from the pub, one of our first staff members, and then a former teammate, Dan Vickerman, who I was close with. He played for the Wallabies, played at the World Cup with him. He sadly committed suicide as well. So while I was still playing, whenever I'd see articles about athletes getting depression and retirement, suicide, I sort of really paid attention. Well, not paid attention, but just was thought, maybe could this happen to me when I retired? So I sort of thought a lot about it and a lot about the problem. And I think everyone's had their struggles from time to time. And when I retired, my grandmother died at around the same, in that sort of same month. So I had a really, really sort of tough patch. But I just found exercising with my mates was the main thing that sort of got me through that. Yeah, everyone's got their own sort of way through or dealing with struggle. But that was, it's something I'm really, really passionate about. I by no means have got all the answers and got everything figured out myself. But I love talking about it, hearing people's strategies, how they live a happy, healthy life, because that's what I try and do every day.
Yeah, nice. That's a nice way to be. How hard was that after football? I mean, obviously, when you're looking at an elite athlete, you go to school, you go to high school, you sort of, here's a uniform, here's our curriculum, here's what we do. Then you become a professional footballer and you pretty much turn up, here's your jersey, here's your training gear, here's where we're going, here's what we're doing. Then all of a sudden you're by yourself. How did you prepare yourself getting out of sport? Because, I mean, and I'll touch on a little bit about you in a second. I mean, you have been very busy and you're doing some cool things in life, and I congratulate you on that. But that big step out of that sporting arena into your purpose, did you struggle with that at all?
I was very lucky that I knew what I wanted to do in retirement. We can talk about that later. That's the stuff with Alfred. So I was really lucky, and I sort of had a stepping stone as well with the pub. We'd sort of set that up while that was going while we were playing. So I sort of had a stepping stone into Alfred. But you sort of really hit the nail on the head. A lot of it is your structure and your routine and your week is given to you by your coach, by your trainer, and you just rock up and just do it. Never have to train on your own. You've always got your mates to train with. And I mean, I to this day can't go train on my own. I find it really boring. I need my mates to help me make it fun. And to help me get through it. So yeah, with retirement, I did 2 practices at it. So that was sort of my odd way. So
how'd the first one go?
First one, well, my twins were born. We had twins.
Yeah.
So I took some time off, took 2 or 3 months off. And then my second last season, I only signed a 6-month contract. So then I took 6 months off, and then I played my last season and I was done. So I kind of had 3 months of no structure to my life. And then, well, obviously I had a lot of structure, a lot of changing nappies.
I'm sure you had someone who was coaching you through that.
Yeah. No, so I was, no feet up resting. But,
exactly.
And then had the 6 months, and that was really, and that's when I really started working on really figured out what I want to do post footy. Because really interested in technology, interested in food, and that come together with Alfred. So I do feel I've found something I enjoy as much as footy, but there's parts of footy that I still miss, and that's the exercising with mates.
Yeah.
So I've got to be really diligent in my week to try and organise it. Mates, we do park run every Saturday with a group of mates. You guys.
Yeah, park run. Yeah, awesome. Yep.
Yes, it's massive here in Canberra. So a group of mates, we always meet on Saturday, do that, and then go breakfast. And the dock or the pub, we sponsor a Wednesday evening run, 6K run from the pub. Everyone goes 6Ks at 6 p.m. and then everyone that does it, the pub will shout everyone a beer after. So that's
nice.
There's sort of the 2 ways. And I've got another group of mates we sort of go for a jog Tuesday mornings. But I've had to be really diligent in retirement to try and exercise with mates, because that's certainly what you miss the most.
Right, and obviously the knees are still good.
Yeah, knees are good.
Yeah.
One shoulder I'll need to get a clean out.
Yeah.
But knees are good. I was a bit worried about my noggin after a few sparring sessions. I've copped a few big hits in the prep for the fight coming up. But
let's talk about that. What fight's that?
Yeah, so fighting Terry Campese for raising money for Campo's fund, the Terry Campese Foundation, and Capital Region Muscular Dystrophy. So Campo does a ton of work in sort of his neck of the woods in Queanbeyan and southern New South Wales, sheltering homeless people. So he's raised a heap of funds, and they've created like a sleep bus with all these pods. So all the people who've fallen on hard times have got a safe place to sleep, and he's just doing heaps in his community. So he organised this, and then he gave the pub a call, and I was silly enough to agree. He caught me at a week, mate, so signed up. And then muscular dystrophy they're the main fight organisers. So half the money's going to muscular dystrophy, half's going to Campo's Foundation. But with muscular dystrophy, I don't know anyone apart from the fight organiser that has muscular dystrophy. So there wasn't too much of a deep purpose for doing it, other than just a bit of a challenge. But my father is a genetic researcher, or a paediatric geneticist, however you want to say it, and they've just cured a type of, or a similar genetic condition to muscular dystrophy called spinal muscular atrophy, and that's normally a terminal illness for newborn children. But it's done. They've cured it. The geneticists, using some of Dad's research, they've cured it. So I'm just a big believer in genetic research, and there's nothing our researchers can't do if we don't give them the time and funds to keep doing their work, keep learning about how the human body works, because I think there's more diseases on the horizon whose time is their disease, those time's almost up.
Yeah, exactly. That's great to hear. So have you ever had a charity fight before?
No, and I won't again. One and done. Retiring 1-0 or 0-1.
What do you think it'll be?
I feel good.
Feel good?
Good.
Nice.
I'm not going to get too clucky just yet, too broody, but it'll be really good. I've got a great trainer, Gary Hamilton, who's a former British kickboxing champ, and some former Canberra security guards who all did boxing have all flogged the shit out of me over the last 3 months. So I feel good, and just we'll see how we go. So
mate, you're probably living the ultimate male's life. You've played games for the Brumbies, you've played for the Wallabies, you're charity fighting, and you also own a pub. Like seriously, that's a bio I want. That's awesome. So how did you go around the process of getting into a pub? Was that something you did during sport? Was that post-sport?
Yes. So when I came to Canberra from Sydney in 2003, and I was studying at University of Canberra, and the pub right next to our college, it was called the Lighthouse. a very famous institution here in Canberra. And so I
Ash is nodding big time right now. She's going, yes,
Ash
I know that one, yeah.
Coming from Gunga, and Ash should know it very well. So I went every Wednesday for years. Basically I went so much that I got to know the family that owned it really, really well. And then, so they were looking to do a new pub and it's sort of a sport. So we're a sports bar, half sports bar, half nautical theme. So we're at the Kingston foreshore on Lake Burley Griffin there. So we're half sort of ocean theme, half sports bar. And yeah, they wanted a sports person involved with the pub when they were looking to set it up. So they approached me as one of their good friends. And I got Scott Fardy, who also played for the Wallabies and the Brumbies. He's another owner as well. So there's a brother and a sister who are lifelong publicans. And then Scott Fardy and myself are the four owners there. And it's been awesome. It's been such a good first venture into business for me.
Yep.
Never done anything like it before. And we just won Best Pub in Canberra at the recent Hospitality Awards. So for the first time, so that little feather in the cap there. And we got a shout out from Shooter McGavin. That was sort of nice little icing on the cake there. So
mate, that's awesome. Anyone who wants to check the pub out, have you got an Insta handle there?
Yeah, just the Doc CBR on Instagram.
THEDOCK CBR?
Yep.
Perfect. Get on and have a look. You've also got your finger in, you mentioned a second ago that you're into tech. So you've got a bit of a tech story as well to add to that bio that I just threw out a second ago.
Yeah, so I've always loved technology and computers. It's a bit ironic that I couldn't get my monitor, my camera working before Ash having a Google instructions for me. So sorry, Ash, I'm not as good with computers as I should be. But yeah, I grew up in Seattle as a kid, and so that's where obviously Microsoft and Amazon, and so we grew up around sort of all that in the 90s, and just always loved computers. When I was playing, I was always in the Fat Club when I was at Brums to beat around the bush. So if you come back from holidays, you're in the Fat Club. And I was always really a heavy kid, despite being super active and doing heaps. I always really struggled to control myself around food, and always had heaps of issues with my weight. But I was really lucky that I found a sport where that was kind of a occupational prerequisite to be a front row in Rugby Union. You had to be, big guy. But even then I was still in Fat Club. But we had a trainer one year who was at the Broncos, and he's been with England, and he's now at Australian Rugby, Dean Benton. And when he came,
Dean, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah.
Dean Benton. Okay. If you got what's your thoughts? Yeah, he's a great. I love him.
He's one of the good guys in sport. Like, he's clever, very clever. Yeah, be careful.
He's mad as a cut snake. Sorry, DB.
I was about to say, you be careful what you say. He obviously had an impact on you?
Massively. So when Jake White, who won the World Cup with South Africa, he came to be Brumbies coach, and then so we came second last the year before. Dean comes, got everyone fit as fiddles. He hired a chef, and he sat me down and said, Ben, you got to get fit. We've got to get you a Fat Club. I want you to write down everything you eat. I want you to keep a food diary. And I did it for 1 week, wrote everything down, and lost some weight. But then I could never really stick with it. It was a bit of a pain in the ass to keep writing everything down.
Yep.
Anyway, and then we got to the grand final. Just lost that year to the Chiefs in New Zealand. But really, really enjoyable 2 years, and my favourite 2 years of Brums was under Dean, and so love you to bits, DB, if you hear this. But anyway, so that had always sort of writing and keeping a food diary that week was sort of always like, oh yeah, that was good, and really helped me make better choices. I didn't eat perfectly, but having to write it down, I'd have 1 Magnum in the week instead of 3.
Yeah, a bit of accountability.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I've always loved my phone and love apps, and then I saw a player in Europe was doing like some borderline bodybuild, a front row that I used to play against, who was a big guy. Saw this video where he was like absolute, like pretty much a bodybuilder, and he goes in the video and he says he's eating beer, chips, but he's tracking everything. And so that got me into using, used MyFitnessPal for a couple of years, and I loved it. It got me out of Fat Club, and it taught me a lot about my eating habits.
Yep.
And then when any friends and family would ask me, they'd start talking about their weight, I go, oh, well, just track it. Use an app. There's heaps. Everyone would download whatever app they'd use, but they couldn't stick to it. They'd give it a few days of a crack, and then they just go, nah, it's not for me. Too much work, too complicated. So that sort of stewed in my mind for about another year. And then one day sort of had an epiphany, build my own. So we built one called Alfred, where we can do all the work for you. So you don't have to do any of the data entry. You can just send us a photo or even just a text of what you ate if you forgot to take the photo. and we'll do all the data entry for you. So we've partnered up with the head of nutrition here at the University of Canberra, Associate Professor Nena Namovsky, and we've got some nutrition students and myself, and we just, photos come through, we quickly look up how many calories are in it, and we do all the data entry for you. So,
and that app's called Alfred, is it?
Alfred, yeah, Batman's butler. So he's like your butler.
And
he helps you go out and become the hero.
And how does the app charge for that?
So at the moment it's free, but we will build a subscription.
Wow! So you're offering that service?
Get it? Yeah. Yep. So it's a bit of work, but that's my full time. Alfred is what I do, and for work, the doc. I'm really lucky; it takes care of itself. Business partners, the legends, and they've got everything sorted there. But I absolutely love tracking things that impact my energy, because I think that's when you say you're feeling good and healthy. I think what you really mean is you've got a lot of energy. I think that's the definition of being healthy. And so I track my sleep using an Oura Ring. I track all my exercise with Strava and my Apple Watch. So I know we did that while I was playing. You'd always have a GPS tracker while we were playing, and at the end of the week, the coaches would put up the GPS report of how far everyone ran, and you'd be like, oh, this bloke's cut corners. He hasn't done enough Ks this week. And Dean Benton, he'd be like checking all the GPS numbers, making sure everyone did enough Ks. And so I sort of knew about 20 kilometers is I feel good when I do about 20 Ks or 15 to 20 Ks of running a week. But I just love tracking things that impact my energy. And I think, it'd be different for everyone, but for me, tracking my food has made the biggest difference to my energy, obviously, because food's the energy you eat. And if I was carrying around a lot of unnecessary weight, so that drained my energy. And then there's the mental health stuff around, like, I would always beat myself up mentally because I couldn't control myself.
People do beat themselves up about that, don't they?
And that is the biggest drain of my energy. And none of that happens anymore. None of that chat's gone. It's just energy and optimism now, because I'm not total control over what I eat, but I have some control and I'm accountable, and it's all just been from tracking. So it's where sort of the love of technology and food sort of blended together, and that's what I'm going to spend the rest of my life working on.
Mate, that is awesome. That is so that's, you just jump on and download Alfred.
Yep. We've only got Apple version at the moment, because we obviously we're doing it all manually, like doing all the estimating. So we haven't released outside Australia yet, and we haven't done the Android version yet, because we've still got some stuff, our tool that helps us process large numbers of meals. We're still improving that tool as well as the app that people use. But we're on the right track. We're really excited so we've done 7,000 meals so far this year. So that's
congratulations.
Thanks, mates. It's the fourth version. So I was working on it for 3 years with a relative who used to do a bit of coding, and we bombed out 3 times. We'd built 3 versions and we couldn't get it to work properly. Well, the first version kind of worked all right, and we had to start again. And then we'd sort of done another year's work, and then we hit this bug we couldn't fix, started again. And then after the 3rd year, we parted ways, and really lucky to have teamed up with some guys from Xero, accounting software company Xero.
I know the company, yep.
Yeah, so they're in Canberra. The payroll part of Xero, the team of developers are based here in Canberra. Okay. And one of the lead guys there is a big Brumbies fan and parkrunner, Dominic Miller, who's CTO of Alfred now, bloody legend.
Shout out.
And so, shout out Dom, the dungeon bard, trying to get into Dungeons and Dragons. So he's got a bit of work to do there before he turns me back into a Dungeons and Dragons king. And Duncan Buchanan's another guy there, has joined the Alfred team. And then we got Nash Canalo, who's a web developer, and some mates that are helping doing the actual building. So that's in a nutshell. I don't know how we got onto that. But
that's an awesome app for people to download. Let's talk about post-footy, because obviously you played front row, so you would have been running some fairly high daily calories there, I assume. How did you go when you stopped playing football? Because you're like, well, I'm used to a plate this big and all the things that come with food.
Yeah, so I think on the big days of training, I would be having about 5,000. So Tuesdays, we'll you have weights in the morning. You have our big unit session. So for a forward, the biggest session of the week was units, when you do live mauls, scrums, it wasn't a lot of running, but it just was so physically taxing. And then with Tuesday afternoons would always be our big team session with a lot of running. So Tuesdays, on a big day, so it would be at 4,500 to 5,000 calories. We'd be doing 3 sessions in the day. Obviously, I don't need that much in retirement. I only eat about sort of 2,000 to 2,500 now. But the other thing, I only learnt all that from tracking. I had no idea about calories and macros and any of that. I just ate food. If I was hungry, I'd eat. But tracking, and the other thing taught me was, apart from just the specific numbers, was I was stuck in a cycle of I would either not pay attention to what I was eating and I'd eat way too much, or then when I'd start feeling fat and a bit not good about myself, I would become too obsessive about what I was eating and eat not enough.
Yeah.
I'd only eat salads or boiled chicken or whatever, and I'd only probably have 800 to 1,000 calories in a day. And it's really, I don't know what it is about the brain, whether it's fight or flight, or whether our brains have really only got sort of two modes. And I think that's why finding balance is a really sort of hard thing.
Yep.
Eating that sort of balanced amount, especially for me, when it was either I'm all or an all or nothing person, finding that balance is really hard. And I think the way I sort of try and explain it is like using an app to my phone, a computer, it's doing all the thinking, my brain, so my brain doesn't have to do it to find balance. It's like if you had to remember everyone's phone numbers in your brain, that's pretty hard, but you just use your phone to do all the remembering for you. So like I see mobile phones as extensions of our brain, and there's a lot of thinking and thought process that these phones can do. And so when I think about technology, I think, well, what are the thought processes our brain is doing that we actually could outsource it to a computer? And I think trying to find balance with food and tracking whether you've eaten too much, that's a thought process I think a computer can do better than me. Because I get to the evening and I just open Alfred and I go, I haven't eaten that much today, or I can eat a big dinner, or I go, I've eaten too much, better go easy, because I just forget. Otherwise my brain gets caught up in whatever I'm doing, and I forget what I've had for breakfast or lunch. And I mean, we got so much coming at us these days. It's hard to remember. Yeah. And then to do it consistently over long periods of time, which is where anyone in business, anything, results come from consistency over a long period of time.
Absolutely. And mate, you've had a success story there too, because you've lost over 20 kilos since your footy days from tracking. Yep.
So I'd gotten control of my eating and out of Fat Club while I was playing. So I finished my playing career about 116, 117, but I was near 130 at my heaviest. But I felt, as soon as I retire, I'll just lose another 15 kilos. I knew I could do it, because even though I hadn't lost heaps of weight, I knew from tracking, I've got control of my weight now. So I just said, as soon as footy's over and I don't need any more weight, I'll just drop the rest. And then been trying to get to 99, but I've plateaued at 102 because I feel great and I don't really want to cut out any more foods that I enjoy. And
you have to live. And you're still pretty active too. I mean, you've got a charity fight coming up, and you're into your running too.
Yeah, parkrun's awesome. Love that. So I don't lift as much weights. I'll try and do yoga a couple times a month just to stretch everything out. But love parkrun. Just did my 100th the other week. So I'm big.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I identify as a parkrunner now.
That is awesome. That is great. That is great.
So I love everything parkrun's about, especially with the community side of it. Yeah, I absolutely love it, because I'm always still a part of the rugby community, but I do feel a bit out of it from obviously when you're a player, but just, the parkrun community's been so welcoming, and they're there every Saturday. I've grown up playing sport. Saturday's competition day for me. It's been that way my whole life. It was always rugby for 20 odd years, but now it's parkrun, and some weeks I'll give it a real crack, try and beat my PB, or some weeks I might just pace a friend, or some weeks I might just so I'm volunteering this Saturday just because I want to save the legs for Saturday night. But love everything parkrun's about. Couldn't and what the founder's trying to do, Paul Sinnott Hewitt, promoting a happier and healthier planet. I'm all about that, and just love everything parkrun's doing.
Yeah, it's a great story. Mate, with the Brumbies, do you still do anything at the Brumbies these days?
Yeah, so I'm now on the board at the Brumbies.
I'll just throw that on the bio as well. Yep.
Yeah, well, that was only in the last couple of weeks. Got kindly asked on to replace. I'm the players representative on the board now. So Pat McCabe, former teammate, he's been on there for 3 years. So he's stepped down because he's having his third child. So so I'm doing that, and I'm helping some of the academy guys get out of Fat Club. So I've only just started in the last couple of months.
For those people that don't know, do you just want to explain what Fat Club is and how you earn the right to be there?
Well, it's now called Sumo Club. They've changed the name, but it will always be Fat Club to me. Yeah. It's just if your skin folds are too high. So when you come back from holidays as a lead athlete, and if your skin folds are too high, you're in Fat Club. So you're sticking around after training, doing extras. There was all sorts of punishments. Dean Benton, he was ruthless on you'd be training 7 days. You even have to only come in for 10 minutes on a Sunday, but it would just wreck your Sunday morning because you have to come in, not train hard, but it would just wreck your Sunday if you weren't in shape, ready to go. It was cleaning staff. You had to clean the staff's car one year. Sitting on a bike in a corner and stare at a wall as punishment to just doing some extra fat burning exercises. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of fun, and you could probably tell I'm a bit scarred from that time.
Did you spend a lot of time there by yourself, or you always had a good friend?
I always had a few good friends. It's not alone. It's one thing. It's Fat Club. It's not a lonely place.
A man can drink beer. There'll always be a fat club.
Yeah.
I love it. A number of times that players have come to us and said, mate, I've had a few beers over Chrissy. What can we do? Yeah, there's not a lot you can do. If you have fun, you got to pay the pipe up. So, mate, moving just to the forwards, do you want to talk a little bit about rugby? Where are we going with rugby in Australia? Like, where do you see the sport going? I mean, obviously you're on a board now at the Brumbies, and that's a big step forward post-player. Where do you see rugby going in Australia?
Up. It hit rock bottom last year. So I think from the moment Johnny Wilkinson kicked that drop goal in 2003, rugby is just slowly declining.
Yep.
In pretty much all areas. There was a couple of blips, like a couple of bright blips. Obviously, the Reds winning in 2011, that was great.
Yep.
2014, the Waratahs won, that was great. 2015, Wallabies played unbelievable, got to the World Cup final. But other than that, there hasn't been much to write about since that 2003 World Cup, home World Cup. The Rugby Australia's bank balance was chockers. They'd won the 99 World Cup. They'd won 5 or 6 Bledisloes. They won the 2001 British and Irish Lions series. And then they host a World Cup, make the final, and just got done by great memorable moment in rugby history with Johnny Wilkinson kicking that drop goal. But for whatever reason, I don't know why rugby decided to decline. I mean, you'd see it in businesses that reach the peak and then they just
absolutely
they stop reinventing. They stop pushing forward, and rugby was just, I think, guilty of that. Decisions made in sort of post that World Cup's just led to a decline, and it well and truly fell apart last year when COVID hit. And but yeah, big believer that what do they say in that Batman movie? The night is darkest just before the dawn.
Yeah, nice.
And love that. So I think rugby went through its dark patch last year, but it's on the rise. We've got great coaching staff there at the Wallabies now. Reds are playing great. Brumbies are doing great. Force are doing great. Melbourne so-so, but the big problem at the moment is the Waratahs. They're responsible for inspiring the most amount of young rugby players. And obviously in Sydney, that's been traditionally a rugby stronghold. And for the Waratahs to not win a game during Super Rugby AU, and then now they're going to start play the Kiwis, you can't imagine they're going to pick up many wins against the Kiwis either.
No.
So that's a real problem that the game's got to fix. But Reds are doing great under Brad Thorne. And the other good thing for rugby that it needed to happen was it parted ways with Foxtel. That was something it needed to get with the times and jump on streaming. And I know Foxtel have done KO, but I think they missed the gate a bit. And all the streaming services. So I've had an NBA streaming service I've subscribed to the NBA one since 2013.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've always thought, why is it rugby do that? This model of pay, $40, $50 a month to have all these sports, that model doesn't really work anymore. I think people could follow maybe 2 sports closely, I reckon. I mean, how many do you follow? Obviously rugby league's one, but
the footy codes, that's me, and surfing. So I've got a third that I do, but they're just getting into this heavy streaming and surfing at the moment, and I think it's the future of, everything's content purposed, isn't it? Like, it's, what do I want to watch? It's for me. So whereas,
and it's like, it's not niche. It's like, you got to be a bit more narrow. Like, my dad loves this YouTube channel about solar panels. He's been trying to set up a little solar thing at his property, and he watches this channel for hours. And that's, I think now, like with rugby, there's people that just want to watch rugby, or there's people that just want to watch AFL or league. I don't think people watch. How have you got the time to watch all the different sports? And there's women's sports for everything. This is coming from someone that runs a sports pub, and we love having sport on the telly, but there's so much sport, and I have to switch off until finals time. I only start watching finals time. I won't miss any of the finals. Love watching LeBron and the Warriors, and I'm a Sonics fan at heart. Rest in peace. Obviously no longer with us, the Sonics. So I'm a bit of an NBA orphan, but I don't think so. So it's great that rugby's gone down that route with Channel 9 and Stan, and they're doing a dedicated streaming service, and they're getting getting rugby from Japan and Europe, and it's just all the rugby you can watch. And I think that's the model, the path forward. And now rugby's on free to air as well.
Yep.
So like now this last Saturday night, I couldn't see any league on free to air. There was actually only Union and AFL. So I was like, that's great for rugby.
Yeah, exactly.
But it took rugby a long time to wean itself off the Foxtel dollars, as understandably, because the way the games are broadcast is obviously the biggest part of the revenue. So that, and then it's rugby. I mean, I think good times ahead. We got the Lions series in 2025, and then hopefully host a World Cup in 2027.
Yeah, nice.
So if we can send a young team to this 2023 World Cup, and if they can do well with the plan of pretty much all that team will play the 2025 Lions series and then try and win a home 2027 World Cup. I think of rugby, all our planning in Australian rugby is towards hosting and winning the 2027 World Cup. I think we can see a second golden era of rugby in Australia.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I love to see the rugby make a comeback. You said, just speaking on that, you said you had a fair bit of time in the academies. Have we got some good cattle coming through?
Yeah, but a lot of the guys in Canberra or in other codes?
Just in rugby in Australia. I mean, obviously you spend more time at Canberra, but are we looking at some the next generation, like you just talked about, being able to do what you're just talking about?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely good juniors, and Australian rugby's not been the problems. Hasn't been the cattle. It's been the cultivating of the cattle, and I think it's more been the farmers than the cattle.
Yep.
And I think having a guy like Brad Thorne is just doing incredible things.
What an incredible athlete too. Yeah.
Much respect. Yeah. I couldn't speak more highly of Brad Thorne and just everything he stands for. And wish I got to play a game with him, but I'm still happy having got to play against him, and coming off on the wrong side against him a few times is still still something. I run at him. That was more the problem. He wasn't the great ball carrier. If you ran at him, you'd know about it.
It's a big unit.
But but just the discipline, and it's a bit old school, like a lot of times are changing. We'll get with the times. Everyone's a bit touchy feely, but it's good to still see a little bit of old school. Come on, toughen up, lads. Let's rip in and just train hard, work hard. So that's great to see. Dan McKell at the Brumbies is doing great. So there are some really good coaches. It's great having Dave Rennie involved. But the academy systems in rugby has changed so many times over the last 20 years, like how it's structured.
Yeah.
That Australia tried to do its own way, and it sort of tried to copy how New Zealand do it, and there just hasn't been a clear path for these young guys. You play how do I become a professional? Because that's what every kid wants to know. Like, how do I do it? And you've got to have a nice, clear pathway. So they go, all right, if I do this, then if I play well, I'll make this team. And then if I do play well, I'll make this team. And then this is the progression. And I think in Australia, that hasn't been very clear. And they're losing, guys are sort of losing their way off this rugby path, and they're getting pinched by other codes. I can't tell how many that Crichton. There's heaps of good union juniors all playing league now, which is something rugby union's really got to fix, but they got to get the dollars in the bank account to be able to compete. So
a couple of new rugby league franchises are going to make that a bit tougher too.
What's that? Where I heard there was another one in Brizzy. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact what's happening, but I definitely think there's more teams coming. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I actually think that's good for rugby, because I think league could probably maybe overstretch themselves, and I think they still haven't weaned themselves off the Foxtel dollars. Because things are still pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think I like the direction rugby's going more than league. Like, I know league's still in a healthier position, but I think rugby's running a leaner ship now. They've taken their lumps, and I really like the direction rugby's headed at the moment. And if league want to overexpand, and I mean, it's like if you got a heap of franchise and you open up too many shops, eventually it can all fall apart pretty quick. And rugby made that mistake. We tried to have the Force, and we had to chop the Force, and there's talk of chopping the Rebels. The Force are back now only because of the generosity of Twiggy Forrest. But if league want to open up more teams, that's great. They're going to have to manage them, and maybe that's rugby's opportunity to
Well, there you go. That's a nice way to look at it. So, mate, just in finishing up, we did a deal with the Giltinis in LA this year. What do you think about the Americans having a 300 million person pool to pull rugby players from? Is that an exciting thing for the sport, or
massively? And I've always wondered why the focus in rugby was always on Asia. I always thought, growing up in the States, rugby's just less ads than NFL, no helmets, less stoppages. So technically, and NFL's a very complex game with a lot of rules. So you think technically they should love rugby, other than it was sort of seen as like the English sport. I think that's, I mean, I don't know my sports history very well and how they started. NFL probably is a bit of an up you to the English back in the 18 whatevers.
Yep.
I really think Americans will love rugby. Really, really, really think it suits them, especially like along that West Coast. Time zones are a lot better than when we go play in South Africa. We're playing at 3 a.m.
Yeah, tough.
Fans aren't getting up. Yeah, fans aren't getting up to watch that. And then always thought the West Coast of the States. But, yeah, they're going great guns. Giltini's top of the table. Great Matt Giddo. Still can't believe Gits is still
playing good footy, isn't he?
Adam Ashley Cooper. They got Dave Dennis. They got a few
they
young.
Look like they're having fun too. That's the thing. They really look like they're having fun.
Yeah, so it's what their first season, and normally we're used to seeing the new team at the bottom, and they sort of got to find their feet. But and a lot of that's also like we're talking about farmers before coaches. Like Darren Coleman's a guy that, and Stephen Hoyle's, especially Darren Coleman's done a lot of, really paid his dues in club rugby in Australia, and is a very experienced coach that hasn't been given a Super Rugby opportunity that probably deserves to be.
Yep.
I know he was at the Brumbies for a little while, many moons ago now. But no, it's great to see them going well, and hopefully they get full stadiums soon.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's all opening up. Well, mate, we might wrap that up there. I just want to congratulate you on your career and post-career. Like it's an awesome bio that you've got. Like it's just so good to see. I just talk to so many athletes that after sport, it's tough. It's really tough because the leagues or the associations don't put enough into, and they probably fucking hate what I'm saying right now, but there's not enough for young men leaving sport, in my opinion. And you seem to have nailed, you got the perfect formula, and I congratulate you on that. You might look at me and go, no, I don't. But from just chatting to you today, you seem like you have a lot of really good things to get up every day for. And that's the biggest challenge for most of us these days. And yeah, it was really nice chatting. Look forward to chatting again if we can one day soon.
Yeah, mate. Love to come back, and it creates everything you guys have done too. Always loved, I think plenty of your protein bars. They were always floating around the Brumbies change room, and I loved them.
Yeah, we love being involved with the Brumbies. That's been a great relationship. So, mate, if we want to catch up with you, how do we find you?
Facebook, Ben A1984. That's a very original Instagram handle, or Benny _Alexander on Twitter.
On Twitter, where are you most social? Which platform?
Instagram probably most, because we share a lot of, because the doc's on there, and we share a lot of photos because of the pub. So Instagram and Facebook are probably the main two.
Nice. And so if we ever want a free beer at your pub, we got to go park run first. So is that a
or the other one now? So we had a Shooter McGavin. You know of Cameo, don't you? The where you can pay to get a celebrity shout out. You pay like a few $100 and you send them a script. Anyway, so we did one with Shooter McGavin, the actor from Happy Gilmore, because our co-founder or co-owner at the doc, he's called Shooter after him. Yeah. Anyway, so we've now got if you come to the doc during a Brumbies or a Raiders game and you go, Shooter sent me, we'll shout you a free drink as well. So there's the two ways. There's the two ways to get a free drink. A run or that. That's probably the best close to a podcast I've ever had. So I'm going to nail that one down now. Thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate you being around, and keep up all that good thing you're doing, especially around that mental health area of the blogging and stuff. It's really good to see. Thanks heaps. Great. That was good.